Today I'm going to be sharing with you a method that you can use to draw literally anything, grid drawings. In art, it is true that you want to try and break everything down into basic shapes. A grid drawing takes that a step further and allows you to break things down into different sections, allowing you to tackle a large picture in smaller bite-sized chunks. And the beautiful thing about a grid drawing is, if you follow the grid correctly, you are guaranteed to get the correct proportions of something every single time. And this right here is an example, student work example, of a grid drawing. Now the thing with a grid drawing, you're not drawing the same way that you would normally draw a picture. Instead, you are focusing on one block at a time, and that is it. You draw what is in that one box into the adjacent box on the blank grid. Once you get that one box filled in, then you can move on to the next box. You do not draw the whole picture at once. You just focus on one box at a time, and you do not move on until you draw that one box. An example that I like to give is everyone always tries to draw an eye, but a lot of times whenever you draw an eye, it just looks weird. Well, if you use the grid drawing technique like this, you can see that drawing an eye, it's just 4 squares. That's it, 4 squares with a few lines. And you're not trying to draw the whole thing, you're just drawing a quarter of a circle and a line. That's it, that's all that you're drawing. Grid drawings make drawing pictures so much easier because it breaks everything down into smaller bite-sized chunks. I also like to give this example because this, well, yeah, the drawing is not perfect. The nose is a little wonky, the eyes aren't exactly right, but this is the first time that this student ever drew anything, period. For your first time doing something, that's pretty darn good. Was your first drawing you ever did in your entire life better than this? I like to include this example because it shows that these grid drawings, when done correctly, they don't look like anything until they're done. You can see where the artist left off in this grid drawing. They started in one section, worked their way around, and filled in every single square, and did not move on to the next square until they were done with that one. This is a perfect example of how to correctly complete a grid drawing. And this is another demonstration of the exact same concept, where it doesn't look like anything until it's done. So you can see where you start one box at a time, fill in those boxes, and it doesn't look like anything until it gets done. It really doesn't. But as soon as you fill in that last square, it all comes together and you're like, that's what this is supposed to look like. I get it. Now, typically in the classroom, I would give you an example right here. But before we do that, let me show you some student examples of grid drawings. And I like to show these examples because all of these students, all the work that you've seen in this presentation so far and these coming up are all done by students who were not artists. They were self-proclaimed not artists. But using the grid drawing technique, they made some really good looking artworks because the grid drawing technique works if you follow it. An example of Marilyn Monroe using grid drawings. An eye from a 7th grader. These are both from 6th graders. And this is from a high school freshman. All of these are students. They were self-proclaimed not artists. They didn't like art, but I mean, they did pretty good. So what's your assignment? Well, that really depends on your class. I have half-page grids, I have full-page grids, and then I have custom grids. So it really depends on which class you're in, which assignment you get, but they all follow the same basic principles, which I'm going to get into right now. Okay guys, so this is the live demonstration over grid drawing. Now, there's a technique that I like to show to my students, and it does make it easier for some students. Now, for me personally, I don't really like this method, but for some students, it really does help. So that's why I'm going to show it. And that is numbering and lettering your grids. So what I mean by that is you start with one side, and you start with the letters, and you go A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, and I. And you do that going all the way down this side, and you do the same thing over here. Once you have the letters done, then you go through and you number it going from left to right on both sides. Okay, now once you have the letters and numbers on both your blank grid and the picture that you're going to be looking off of, what you do now is you try and you transfer over one block at a time exactly the way you see it to the empty block. So for instance, I know that this block right here is on I3, so I can jump straight down here, and it's just like playing bingo at this point. We go to I3, and this box lines up with that box. So all I have to do down here is I need to draw exactly what I see inside of that box right there. And we don't want to worry about anything else around it. We're just focused on that one box. So I'm going to jump down here, and I'm going to draw that exactly the way that I see it. And then I'm done. That's it. That's all I have to do with that box. So then I move over to the next box. And the next box is this one right here. And I draw that exactly the way I see it. That's it. I'm done with that box. That is the correct way. Let me show you an incorrect way. And I have students do this all the time. The incorrect way is to look at this and say, oh, look, that's SpongeBob. I know he's got an eyeball right there, and he's got an eyeball right here, and he's got eyelashes, and he's got this big old honking nose, and he's super happy, and he's got buck teeth. And look, it's SpongeBob. I'm done.
That is the most beautiful thing I have ever seen.
Follow the grid, one box at a time. That's all. Don't just jump in there and draw things because you think, oh, wait, that looks good. No, that's not what you do. Thank you all very much. I really hope you enjoyed this lesson, and just let me know if you have any questions. I'll catch you in the next video.